Hi guys, I've been asked if I could do a slideshow on the book module in Adobe Lightroom. Now before we go into the book module we need to start in the library module. In my previous video, one of my previous videos, I showed you how to create a collection, and you need to create a collection to take it forward into either the book module or the slideshow module. So we're sitting here in the library module, and if I open up the collections tab, you can see I've created a collection down here, and I've just called this collection YouTube book module. I've made this the targeted selection. You can see that with the little plus sign here, and I've put 24 images in. What you need to remember when you're collating images for a book is that if you're doing it to blurb directly from Lightroom, that there is a minimum book page of 20 and a maximum of pages 240. So if you're planning on doing a book where you have one full image on every page, the minimum number of pages for your book is 20. So these are, I've got this highlighted, so these are the images here that I'm going to take forward into the book. I had a bit of a stumble in the previous video when we talked about collections, because I had a little bit of a brain freeze moment. I have all landscape images in this book, but I do have an image here which isn't a landscape, and I want to remove that from the collection. If I just hit the delete key, it doesn't delete the image. If you hit the delete key whilst you're in a collection, it will just remove that image from that particular collection. The other thing we discussed, when you create a collection, if we just hit on the little plus key here and click create a collection, you get a few different questions to name a collection in the collection set, which we discussed in the previous video. When you're thinking about producing a book, you have a tick box here to include selected photographs or to make new virtual copies. Now the reason you have those two, say for example you wanted to create a square book and you were going to crop every image in this book into a square image, then you could choose to make virtual copies of these images and go through and make them all into squares. Then that would not affect your original image. It would only affect the virtual copies that you've put into this collection to create your book from. But if you were just doing a normal landscape book like I intend to do, I would include the selected photographs, because until that book is finished and sent off to Blurb or anybody else to be printed, if I make any adjustments to one of these images, I would like that adjustment to go through to the image which is going into the book. Say for example you have an image in here and you go on at a later date before you complete the book to find a dust spot. You would take the dust spot off the original image, and that would then in turn take it off the image which is going through to create the book. I just wanted to make that clear before we go any further with this. The other thing you would do before you take these images through into the book module is that there's a couple of things you can do. You can rearrange within this collection, you can then rearrange where these photographs are going to appear. You can do this in the book module, but if for example you know that you would like to put this image here, in particular onto the front cover of the book, I would pick this image up, drag it over and drop it at the beginning, and this will become obvious when we go through. If you want to take an image and use this image here in particular to be on the back page of the cover of the book, I will just take this down, drag it down, and you can see where the black line has formed here. Drop it where that black line is. Now this is going to appear on the back page of the book, so I can drag these images around and change the position where they're going to fall within that book module. So you could have all your seascapes or anything with water all together. So I'll bring this one up and plonk it into there. The other thing you could consider doing before you go into the book module, and this comes into when we look at what text you want to put into the book, is on every image, if you come to the metadata here and you click on this drop down, we're just going to go to default metadata for the time being. There's other versions of it, but we only need to look at the default. For each image, you can put in a title. You can give that particular image a title. And say for example this image here, I would give this title obviously Saxa Salt, and then in the caption I can put a little description in there about the image and where the image was taken. Taken at a at a railway siding in the Scottish borders. Okay, now that will become obvious why I do this when we go through into the book module. You may have a full description that you want to put in there. Say you've gone to another country, which country it was, the reason behind taking the image, and there could be a whole story there which goes with that particular image. And it's probably worth pointing out that this is the best time to do that for each image before you go forward into the book module. You can actually type any particular information into a Word document and copy and paste it into this caption area. The title is to be short and sweet, and the caption can have a lot more detail attached to it. So now once we've done that and you go through the different images and you've got them arranged in the order that you want them in, we will go through and along at the top here click on the book module, and it'll take it a second to go into here. Obviously having the particular collection highlighted at the left hand side. So now we're in the book module. We don't really need this left hand panel, so if you click on the little arrow to the left hand side and you can close that, gives you a little bit more real estate in the center of the image here. Before we go in and start doing anything with the book, if you come up at the top left hand side and you can see you have the menu, the book menu. If we click on the book menu and go to book preferences, then you get a little box with a few different questions on. We have zoom to fit or zoom to fill. Now I would choose zoom to fit. If you go zoom to fill, then this is going to take the image and fill the particular space and might crop the image. So if you just go to zoom to fit for the time being, you can check this box here to say start new books by autofilling. I tend to leave that unchecked because you can actually do all of these things within the book module itself. Fill text boxes with title metadata, and we want to keep the text boxes constrained and the captions to text safe areas. We'll discuss that in a little bit more detail. We can now just close that and we don't need to go back to there anymore. The only time you would need your left hand panel here, if we just, for example, I'm just going to do an auto layout, just very quick. We'll come back and we'll undo this. But if we look down at the bottom left hand side here, we have different views. So we have a grid view, which is what we're looking at now, and we can adjust the thumbnails by coming down to the right hand side and making those smaller so that we can see the whole book. Yeah, so that's the book as it has been done with an autofill at the moment. We can have whichever page is active, it will be surrounded by this yellow box. So if I look in this loop view, the spread view here, this will show you these two pages together. Yeah. If I go to the loop view, the page view, you will get a single page view. So sometimes if you're working with the spread, for example, and you're looking at your front and back cover of the book, the only time you will really need this left hand panel is if you are in the spread view like this and you just want to zoom in to see what text you're putting in the box, for example. So that is about the only time you would need this view, but we're going to select fit again and close this left hand panel down, and we're going to click on here to get the grid view. So with the grid view up, I'm going to say clear book again, and we're going back to start with where we came into the book module. We're going to we're going to open the tab book settings, and we're going to look at the drop downs here. You can create a blurb photo book, which is a good quality book. You can create a blurb magazine and just say yes to change the format. This obviously gives you a magazine format layout, which has a soft paper cover, just like a magazine book. You have a blurb trade book, and we'll change the format there. And that is a lower quality book to have on a trade stand. You can use PDF, self-explanatory, or create a JPEG. In this instance, we're looking at a blurb photo book, so we want to have a good quality blurb photo book. Size, again, little arrows, drop down box. You can have a square, standard portrait, standard landscape, large landscape, and large square. So you choose which size, and in this instance we're going to go with a standard landscape. The next one down is the cover. So you have a choice. You can have a hard cover, which will have an image on the outside of the book, and the image will wrap around the book. You can have a hard covered book with a dust jacket. So that would be a paper jacket that would go on the outside, but there would not be an image on the book itself. The book itself would possibly, I think it's a plain black book, and you can have a hardcover dust jacket, or you can have a soft cover. Now this will be cheaper. I'm just going to turn on my internet just so that we can see. When we come to the paper type here, premium luster is the paper type that I tend to go for. It's a very good quality, it's a nice paper quality to go for, or if you like matte paper then you choose the matte. You can have Proline and Proline uncoated and Proline Pearl Photo, which is a very good quality paper. You can have standard paper, which is, yes, it's very nice, but it doesn't have a good feel to it. It has the picture quality is good, but the feel of the paper is not so good. And then you can have a standard lay flat. If this is going to be a coffee table book and you want the book to lay open flat, without the seam in the middle, and you want the pages to lie flat when the book's open, you would go for a standard lay flat. I'm going to choose premium luster at the moment. The next thing is you can have the logo page on or off. So if we look at this view here, I'm going to the spread view, this is the last page of the book. And this has the blurb logo on here. Just for a moment I'm going to come down and click auto layout again and take a look at this last page. When I look in the book settings now, because I'm linked to the internet, it's telling me that the estimated cost of this book is going to be £17.99. That was with the logo page on. If I turn the logo page off, it will recalculate, and now it's £21.94. So you're paying a few pounds to not have that logo in there. So I tend to leave it on to get a better price on the book. Also, if you go Proline Pearl Photograph, you can see that it's now estimated and made at a higher price because it's a more expensive paper. The same as if you have a dust jacket. Now the price, a hardcover with a dust jacket, it's gone up to £30.39. So as you go along, it will actually tell you what the cost of this book is going to be. So we're going to select the dust jacket, standard landscape. I'm going to go back to premium luster paper, and I'm going to leave the logo page on. So I'm going to expect a cost around about £24 for this book. So we're going to take a look at this is the front cover of the book and this is the back cover of the book. If we want to change the templates for this to see, we don't want this image to sort of overlap here, and we want a smaller image on the back here. If we click on this little arrow at the bottom of the page here, then we get some given templates based on the fact that we've chosen a dust jacket. So we can come down and scoot down here and choose a template that we think might suit better, and I think I like to go for this one. So this is going to give me the opportunity to drag and drop another image in here and possibly another image in there. And these boxes here are text boxes, so I can type text into these boxes. I could put a whole paragraph in up here, and I have text which can come down the spine. So if I come into here and I type images space by Mary T. Norton, and that will appear in here. We can change the text if we come down to this text cell here, and we can change all the text, but we'll come back to that sorry, into the type cell, but we'll come back to that a little bit later. So if we come back up to go back to grid view, and we'll come back to finishing the front cover off, so you can see that we have one image per page because we did the auto layout. So I'm just going to say clear the book again, and we'll start again. We can close the book settings tab, and we're going to open the auto layout tab. So in the auto layout tab, you can see that we have selected one photo per page. If I click on this to get the drop down box, then I have different presets set up here. If I want to do random or one photo per page, I could have the left page blank and the right page with one photo. If I want to do new, then I would select the new, or you can select the auto layout preset editor, and you get this box brought up. So if we click again here, we have drop down boxes. You want a fixed layout, and if you come and click on this, then we can choose whether we want 2 photos per page or 1 photo per page, and we're on the 2 photos per page. You get different templates here, so you can scoot down, and sorry, my computer seems to be working in it with a little bit of a lag at the moment. So we have 2 photos per page, and if we scoot down, then you get different templates that you can use. So you can have pages where you have 2 photographs and text, or you can have just 2 photographs. You have a multiple of choices. There's a whole range of templates that Lightroom supply you with. So you could choose this one, for example, a 2 photo page layout, and you can see now it's surrounded by a yellow box. You can zoom the photos to fit or fill. Again, we'll choose fill, because if we use fit, you will possibly lose quite a lot of your image when it crops it to fit it into that the box that you've chosen. You can choose to add photo text, and whether to align it with photographs, with the photograph itself, and we'll do that. Use text style presets, and we can come to that a little bit later when you can do that all within the book. So if I say save this now as a new preset, and it'll bring up this little box. So at the moment the left page is blank and the right page has got 2 photos on. So if I click this drop down box up here, I can select a fixed layout and do a completely different layout in the same way to what we've chosen for the right hand page. I can have the left page blank, or I can have the left page the same as the right hand page. Then I can hit the save, and I can delete the wording that it says up here and put a name. So if I choose Mary's 2 image 2 page spread, and hit create. So now if I do an auto layout, it will do an automatic layout based on the choice I have in this drop down box here, which is going to produce 2 images per page on each side. And there we go, they've all just landed in there. So you can see from this that we have the book which is full. We need one more image in here. So you would either bring another image into that collection, or you could just duplicate an image. If you look down on the thumbnails here, you can see that we've got the number 1 above each image, and that tells us that that particular image has been used once in the book. So if I say, for example, take this textured image and drop it up and pop it into that little box there, now this is telling us that this image has been used twice in the book. You will see that whichever images you've chosen for the front and the back of the book will also appear on the printed pages within the book, so they will stay there. So if we come and we click on here, we want to have a look at this in detail. You can see the individual photo cells here. So we're on this page at the moment. If I click onto this page, we'll move on to here. Now we can change the layout of this particular page by clicking on this little downward arrow here, and if we chose to, say, for example, have 3 photographs, we could zoom down here and we could choose to have 3 photographs in a completely different layout. We could choose to have 2 photographs, but I want to put quite a lot of text in, so we could change it to this format to put a lot of text in. This little icon here, exclamation mark, is warning you that this image, the resolution of this image, is too small. So this must be a thumbnail image that I've used, or this image is actually too big. If you can see, it's highlighted across here. So what I might choose to do here is to change this this spread completely and do a custom page here. Say we do a 2-page spread and we choose like that. Now within this we can move this image around. This is a very, very big image, and it's probably just too big for this is a panoramic image which had about 13 images in, so I'd probably choose to just not use this image at all, and we could swap it for, say, this image here. Much better. And within there I can zoom this image around. I can zoom in if I wanted to zoom this image in and show less, or I could zoom it out and leave it like that. That looks lovely. Okay, so if we come back to the grid view, so we've got this large image coming across here, and now we can look down here and we can see that this image hasn't got a number on, so it hasn't been used. So I can drag that up and swap it for that image there, and this image has been used in there twice, so I can right click and I can remove the selected cell. We'll just come down to the spread view here, and you can right click on any one of these pages and you can add a cell, a photo cell or a photo description cell. So you can do whatever you want. You can create your own layout. You can adjust the size of the cell and then drag and drop an image into it. And you may wonder why I have this image here. You might want to use an image like this as a background. So I'm going to just change this page for the moment to a text page, and now I can go in, and this is where it would have been handy if you had a Word document and you had typed in all the writing that you want to put in, and you come in and you pasted that writing into this area here, and we'll just say and you went on and just blah de blah de blah 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 blah, yeah, and you ended up with the whole page full of the text that you wanted in there. So instead of having this text all onto a plain white page, if you come down and you open the background page, now if I drag this orange image from the film strip and drop it into this background area and increase the opacity so you can see that this image now is in the background, and if I go to this grid view, you can see that it's in the background of all of the pages. So you can choose to have just a texture or an image, but I would always choose an image that doesn't have an awful lot into it. So say for example, if you're doing landscape, if you've got some textured images of bark of the trees and things like that, it works really, really well. But we're going to come back to our text page here, and you can see now that instead of just having this texture on all of the pages, it applied it to every page because this box is checked apply the background globally. If I uncheck that and go back to the grid view, I've got a little bit of a lag here on the computer, so you'll have to bear with me. It will remove that background from all of those images. Okay, so with apply background globally unchecked, then I can just put that one image on the background of here, and you can see that it looks quite good with the text on. I can click on this little drop down arrow here, and I can choose to either have a photograph in this graphic box, or if I click on travel, I can actually have a map on the background of there, and so on and so on. And of course they give you different templates that you can use to put in there. So for this one, for example, I'm just going to stick with photograph and stick with the photograph that I've decided to use. And now if I click on this little box here, obviously instead of having the textured background here, I can choose to just have a background color and uncheck the graphics box, and if I click on this little drop down box, then I can have change the background color to anything that I would like to use in there. We'll just leave it at white for now and close that little box down. We're going to click back on the graphic because I want to use the image here, and I can change the opacity of the image to suit to where I want to go. I can also highlight all of this text here and come into the the type box. With the text all highlighted and I come into the type box, then this is where I can make some changes to how that text is going to appear. I can choose a text that I would like to use, and whether I want it to be regular, depending on which text. Oh no, we don't want to be using that one. Depending on which text that you choose, it's obviously perfectly to suit. We can actually change the text colour here, so if we wanted to say change it to white, and close the box, and we can alter the character size, the opacity of the text, so it's a bit too bright, so we might want to just bring it down a little bit. The tracking, so we can space the text out, and the baseline we can bring it down to wherever we want to the text to start. And spread it out a little bit further, so you can do all sorts of alterations in here to suit how you want the text to appear. You can have it all left aligned, or you can have it centered. Many adjustments that you can make yourself within this area. So it's well worth having a play with if you are adding text. Obviously some people just don't want to put all the photographs in, but it is nice to just break the pages up and have a text in there. I would just like to mention that, just in case if you are in your text style box and you only have two sliders here, there's a little arrow at the right hand side. You need to click this little arrow here, which will open up and give you the rest of the choices that you need to go with. You can use this drop down here to just get certain default presets that they have in there. So if this was a wedding, then you could highlight this text and set it as wedding font. Obviously if you use the same type of text regularly, or you want to use the same type of text throughout the book, and you've chosen your size and the type of character you want and the opacity, etc, etc, you could click up here and save the current settings as a new preset. So instead of having to go in and alter this for each page of text that you do in the book, then you can just pop in here and select your preset. And it's the same within Lightroom for most things that you do, that if you do it more than once, create a preset, learn how to work with presets, and it will save so much time. Okay, so if we go back to grid view now, and you can see now the book's looking absolutely wonderful. If we come back up to select this the front and back cover now, and we bring that larger so that we can see it, and we are going to click on the bottom right hand and we're going to choose a different template for this. Let's have a look. Scroll down. I think this is probably my most favourite template that I use when I create a book. And you can come in here, and this is where it's helpful to have your text boxes. So if I've just added a text box here, you could have just gone into this box here and started typing, or you can add another. Say for example you wanted to drag this one up here and have this as your title of the book. Mary's landscape photo book, and there we are. we have that there. So now that that's typed in, we can drag it around using this bar here, or we can actually physically drag it around like I've just done. And if we highlight this text here and come down to the type box again, and if we click on the center or to center it, then it should bring that image, that typing into the center. And obviously we can change the size and have it to suit. So with this text box here, I'm just going to right click and say remove the selected cell, because I don't want to put any extra text on the front of the photo book. I'm going to take this little image here and drag it up into there, and I can leave that other text box because I'm not going to use it. This part of the wrap is going to wrap to the inside of the book, so we're not too bothered about that, and we'll drag that into there. And obviously you can come into here and you can just type in and put in a little narrative about what this book is all about. And obviously if you want to alter that text, you just come in, you highlight it, and you come over to the right hand side and change the font, and you know, do whatever you want to do within that. So if we come back to the grid view now, and we're just going to have a look at how to do some padding on some images. So let's say if this page, for example, we're going to change this page and we want to select 4 photographs, and we want the photographs to be full bleed photographs on the page. So we need to add in, drag and drop another couple of photographs. Oh, that is the one that's actually in there. So we'll just drag this photograph in, and just say, for example, we want to have we don't want the photographs touching each other in the middle. It's fine for them to go out to the edge of the page, but we don't want them touching. We want a gap like there is down here in the center. So to do that, we have to come over to and click on the cell tab. This is where we get our padding. Yeah, so you when you initially open this up, you're just going to have the one line, and as usual with Lightroom, and there's a little arrow at the right hand side. If we click on this little arrow here, so now that opens up. So we have left, right, top and bottom for the padding. So we have padding at the bottom of the top images. So if I click onto this image here, so I can zoom this image in a little bit further or zoom it out, but I want to put some padding at the right hand side of this image. So this image is selected at the moment, you can see by the yellow spot in the middle. So to the right of that, I want to put some padding in here. You can see that when I've done that, when I move one slider, all 4 sliders are moving, because this checkbox here is link all is selected. So I'm going to link all again and put these all back. I'm going to check the link all to uncheck it, sorry, and I'm still on this one image, and I want to put some padding to the right hand side of that image. So I'm just going to drag the padding slider, either drag the slider or come in here and say highlight this figure here and say 10 points. Then I'm going to select this image to the right, and you can see that I can zoom this image in or zoom it out a little bit. Sorry for the lag on my computer at the moment. So I'm on this image and I want to put some padding to the left. So instead of dragging the slider to get the same amount of padding, I'll just come in, highlight the number in this box and type in 10. And I'll just repeat that process for these images, but I'll just put you on pause for a moment while my computer catches up. Okay, so I've done that now. So I have padding, I have space in between these images, and this is where, of course, you can choose to put a coloured photo border around your images. I've got this image highlighted at the moment, and I can choose to put a black border or a coloured border, whichever you choose to do, around these images. And if I zoom this image so it fills the photo cell, yeah, and then I could drag, yeah, and the same, I'll click on this image and I'll zoom this image in to fit the photo cell. Sorry, while it catches up a little bit there, and zoom it in to fit the photo cell. Yeah, and I'm just going to come back onto this image and take off that photo border, but you get the idea. You can put the photo borders around, and you could put padding in between the images, top and bottom. And there's one section I would just like to come back to. If I select this page here and go to this view, and this is the guides. If I open up the guides panel, okay, with the guides panel open, these are not printable, they're just there for your information completely. So the page bleed, if I click that on and off, you can see around the edges is a light grey area. That is where, if you do images with a full bleed, which go on the full page, so the grey area is, if you do a full page bleed, this is where they're going to actually cut the page of the book to create the book. So it may be that if you've got something very important on the edge of a photograph and you've done a full page bleed with a photograph like this, for example, click on that one and look at the full page, you will lose that little bit of the image down there possibly. So just to bear in mind that that is what that is there for. If we come back onto the grid view and we look at this page again, and this light grey box here, if I take that on and off, that is the text safe area. You don't want to be putting text outside of that area, because that is the text safe area. Anything that's printed outside of that area may not be printed correctly. And obviously the yellow just shows you your photo cells when you click on them. So just very faintly you can see the yellow box around here. If I untick photo cells, you wouldn't see that yellow box, it wouldn't appear. So it's worth having that left checked on. And your page grid can help you. I tend to leave this off, that's there for you if you're designing your own templates and you want something to clip them to. So I tend to leave that one left off. And guidelines are there to help you again to stay within the correct areas. These guidelines sort of show you where your corners of your photograph is and where it's going to be, so you can snap guidelines to suit and match. So you can choose to have those left on or left off. So if I open the text box we were talking about at the very beginning, when we were talking about putting a title in for an image or a caption in for an image, I've got this image selected here, and oops, that's not an image that we put a title into. Let's go back to grid view and we find out where the Saxa salt image is. So I'm going to select this page here and bring this up so you can see that this page that was selected in the default has a text, a photo text, and the name, the title of the images came up in there. That is because we are in this photo text. Sorry, I need to click on this image here that we're going to use, and now this becomes highlighted and the photo text box is ticked. If I untick that, then the text that goes along with that photo will disappear. So I'm going to check that box again and bring this in. It's given me the title of the image, and that would apply to all of these images if we'd gone into every image and put a title in there, and or any type of photo text or a caption. It's putting a title in because we have a drop down box here, and you can use the caption, the photo text, the date, and the equipment that you used, if that'll be in the metadata, your exposure data. So if we click on exposure data, it will put the settings that you took the image on, but in this instance we had title. So that is the whole point in going into your collection at the very beginning and putting a title in. If we change this to caption, then it would put this caption in here. So in this instance we're going to leave it as title. You can also, right click on and add another text box and put in the caption and everything to go with it. And you can align this text as well, and you can come onto into the type section and change the font and everything that we described earlier. You can have it above the image, or you can have it over the image, and you could come in and highlight the text and go into the type section and change the font. So there's many things you can do. Now when we are at this point, we'll just open up this side panel again. This book is not saved yet, and if you want to come back and work on this book again, you need to save it as a book. So there's a couple of things that you can do, and you must make sure you click on the right thing, because if you spent a few hours creating a book here, the last thing you want to do is delete it. So I don't know why they have clear book and create a saved book sitting next to each other up at the top right hand side. So you can do two things. You can create a saved book here. You can export it to PDF. If you want somebody to proofread the book, if you put a lot of text in, then you can export it to PDF, send it off to somebody and have them read it over. That won't include the front and back page, the hard cover of the book. It will only include the pages that's within it. So that's a good point to remember. If you've done text on that page, you would have to send that separately on the back cover of the book or the front. So we're going to hit create a saved book, and that's going to bring up the box. I think you might recognize this because we've seen this previously. It's very much the same box that you get when you're creating your collection in the first place. So we're going to give the book a name, and this is going to be the actual YouTube book. Because the difference is the collection that you made together is the actual collection of the images that you chose, that you were thinking about putting into this book. this now that we are going to save is going to be the actual book itself. It's another collection within that collection, but it's the collection with a module attached. It is actually the book that you've created. So in this collection we can include only the selected photos, only the photographs that we have used in this book. But if you're not finished the book, this is only your first pass through it, and you want to possibly go back and put more photographs in there, leave this box unchecked, because if you check this box, the only images that will be able to be put into this book are the images that you have in there at this moment in time. So I tend to leave that box unchecked. Make new virtual copies. If I make new virtual copies now of the images in this book, then any edits I do to them back in the library module, these original images will not affect the images that are in this book. So that is the choice that you need to make at this point in time. And we don't need to set it as a target collection. So at this moment I'm going to leave these all unchecked, and I'm going to hit create. So now if I come back and I look at the collection here at the bottom left hand side, I have my YouTube collection there. That is the collection that I made initially, and then I have my actual book, and I did use all 23 images that I'd had in that collection. If I'd only used 10 of them, this would just say 10 in here. So now I can safely come out of this library collection, out of the book slideshow, and go back to the collection and have a look at the images. If I click on the actual book itself, you can now see the right hand side, there's a little white arrow pops up there. If I click on that little arrow, that will take me back into the book module. So say I've gone back in here a couple of times and I've done a few more edits, and now I'm happy with the book and I want to send the book off to Blurb. I need to be connected to the internet again, and I tend to disconnect it because I have a few problems with this computer's getting a little bit on the old side now. So I'll connect back up to the internet, and I would then say send the book to Blurb. Now if you've previously been on the Blurb website and you're registered with Blurb, then you won't have a problem. It's going to tell me now that this book's going to cost me £22.99. I can give the book a title. This is the title that is going to go onto the Blurb website. So it could be a different title to what you have in your collection, but there we go. Actual book for YouTube, and of course it's still got a bit of a delay, and the book's author is Mary Norton. So okay, and once that, you can see that it's starting to upload the book to Blurb, and you'll be able to go in and register as a new customer, or it will take you into your account and you can choose whether you want to print the book or make it public for other people to buy. And that is our book completed. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you, and subscribe down below if you want to see further tutorials from myself. Thank you. Bye.